Okay, thanks very much. All right, good afternoon. Jeremy Isles from the Urban Agriculture Consortium, and thanks for joining us in this Policy Influencers Network group meeting focusing on the Midlands and the East. Just brief introduction to the Urban Agriculture Consortium, where we've come from and where we're going. UAC evolved out of consultations on improving urban food production that started in 2016 and went through the consultations across the UK till 2019, initially funded by Esme Fairbairn Foundation. We then got together the consortium of partner organisations that include Social Farms and Gardens, Permaculture Association, Community Supported Agriculture, and the Open Food Network, and submitted a further bid to Esme Fairbairn in 2020 for the development of this work in response to global warming, climate emergency, health, obesity, and other health issues. And of course, then we had COVID as well. We started our work working with partners in the northern cities, and that's now extended into the Midlands and the East, as you can see. And we've also done work in and around the Bristol and Bath area in recent times. We've also listened to what our partners and stakeholders have been asked for, what help we could offer, which was complementary to the work that other people were already doing. And obviously, there's many partners in the field, Sustainable Food Places, the Land Workers Alliance, and many others. And we didn't wish to duplicate or take away from any of their work. What was a clear ask when we did consultation was that people in local groups, practitioners, and indeed local authorities wanted help with policy influencing. So we set up what we call the Ping in 2020, and obviously that was during lockdown, so inevitably it was done on Zoom. But actually that was a great benefit to us because all of a sudden we were freed from the logistical nightmares of organising events, organising venues, transport, accommodation, catering, and all the other costs that go with that. And the Ping format enables people from all over the UK to join a meeting for 1 or 2 hours without leaving their desks. And obviously for local authorities and others, that's quite a bonus because things cost money and Zoom calls don't. So the first 8 or 9 pings, we've looked at land use planning, we've looked at digital mapping, we've looked at soil density and nutrients and various other topics. But this ping is slightly different because it's focusing on the Midlands and the Eastern regions. And just to give you a context, in 2022, the UAC, together with the Land Workers Alliance, ran some training on how to set up a Farmstart. And I mentioned the Land Workers Alliance because they are the people who are coordinating the Farmstart network. So we worked with them, and several people in the northern cities and indeed from Nottingham took part in those training sessions. That led on to discussions in Nottinghamshire with Bex and Bethan, who are in this meeting. And that led on to discussions with Nottinghamshire County Council about carrying out a feasibility study into Farmstarts in the county of Nottinghamshire, which was completed in 2023. And that report will be referenced later on in the session. The whole point of the Ping meetings, is to amplify and accelerate good practice, to share ideas, things that are emerging, things that other people may not have heard about, to foster collaboration and innovation. And what we'd like to take away from this meeting later on is some good ideas that you can take out and talk about with your local councillors, your local authorities, other practitioners in your area. And then, of course, talk to some of us as well. And our contact details will be on slide at the end. So if we just look, I'm just going to show you what the agenda is going to look like, and then we'll move on to our presentations. If we can have the next slide. So this is me. I'm done doing the introductions. So we're going to hear from our team in the Midlands and the East, and they will introduce themselves. Horticulture in the Fens. How can Farmstart support access to food? What is a Farmstart? Because obviously not everybody knows, although I just see B from the LWA has joined us, which is great. And some case studies. We're looking at nutrient security and markets, and then there'll be hopefully half an hour in an hour's time for some questions and answers, and then we'll try and finish at 2:30. But if we do go over, we'll ask permission, if you like. So I think that's me, and I'm going to hand over to Laura Stratford from Lincoln.
Thank you. Just briefly to introduce ourselves, we are 5 women from across the east of England and the Midlands, with a passion for better food systems. So we're talking about providing really nourishing food, stewardship of the land, and ecological sustainability and fair, just food systems. We weren't just doing this, putting the world right in a pub. We are well networked and very much rooted in our communities and involved in things on the ground. And what we saw together is that there's a real need for routes for new entrants into agroecological food production. Think about like really just food systems. And as part of that, training, opportunities. And we had a wish to learn and inspire. Next slide, please. So you can see from this map very quickly where we are across the area. This is Bethan and Bex in Nottingham. I'm in Lincolnshire in the white spot. Lauren is in Peterborough, and Sabina is in Norwich in Norfolk. I'll pass over to Bethan.
So I've gone back a slide, bear with me, technical things going on. Right, no one saw that, everything's fine. So we came together as a group to present and discover a shared vision. And we all want robust policy to enable us to innovate. And we believe that collaboration drives success. We really want more regenerative and agroecological practices that are standard across our food and farming. And we want to enable more local economic resilience, engage with the community and strengthen our local communities, and make sure that equitable access is available for all aspiring growers and entrepreneurs to support the local community. So we came together with this sort of shared vision, and this is what we're going to sort of present for you today. Back over to Laura.
Thanks. First slide. So I wanted to give you a context of what is the current horticulture provision, who's providing our vegetables at the moment. And what better place to start than in Lincolnshire? I'm mindful that this is applicable to the whole of the Fens, which includes Cambridgeshire and Norfolk. But Lincolnshire has this disproportionate amount of grade 1 agricultural land, if you look at the left-hand map. How come we've got so much of this amazing land? So the Fens started off more or less at sea level, and people were living there and eating there, but several centuries ago that land got drained. So as soon as you expose this lovely alluvial soil to the air, it starts to deplete. That's the oxidizing of this very carbon-rich soil kicks out loads of greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide. And so literally the soil over time, and exacerbated by climate change and exacerbated by agriculture in the area, the soil is literally depleting, eroding. So on top of the oxidation, there's also the wind erosion because of the soil drying out. There's also the compaction because of the heavy agricultural machinery literally squishing the soil down. So what used to be more or less at sea level is now pretty much a bowl. The Fens is becoming bowl-shaped, and in places it's below sea level. Now, exacerbated by climate change, here it comes in the winter, and where we get more extreme weather events and more risk of flooding. You can see the little hook shape that goes through Lincoln actually on the map in the middle. That's the River Witham. There's also the Ouse and the Nene that come up through the Fens, not in Lincolnshire. But even this year, already last winter, we saw that the water infrastructure that we've got in place at the moment was inadequate. So there were breaches in the river, the banks of the Witham, and what we saw was a lot of farmland being inundated with water, crops lost, late planting, huge problems across the Fens. Now, on top of the fluvial flooding, the water coming down from the rivers and the standing water, there's also the risk of tidal surges. So the tides overtopping the sea barriers. And we're projected sea level rise and accelerating sea level rise. So this is going to be a long-term problem. Now, also, if you look at the right-hand map, this is the red lines are the roads that are damaged. Now, why are these roads damaged? Right, the underlying geology in the Lincolnshire Fens is characterised by channels created by glacial meltwaters, and on top of that is all this lovely alluvial silt peat soil. But what happens is when the roads go over one of these underground channels, they crack. There's slippage caused, and hitherto the county council has coped with that by putting another layer on the roads. They resurface the roads. Nice and smooth again, all fine, except that makes the road even heavier. So coupled with the desiccation of the soil because of climate change and under hotter summers, the weight of the roads causes it to break even more quickly. That's notwithstanding the growing population, the number of households with 2 cars, the increasing weight of agricultural traffic on the roads, and electric vehicles are even heavier. So this doesn't have a solution at the moment, but what you can see from the map is that these roads that are at risk pretty much form a belt around the Fens. Did I mention at the beginning that this part of the country provides a third of the UK's homegrown veg and as an additional third of fresh food imports? So it's a really key area nationally as well as locally. Next slide, please. There are also voices, as you can imagine, that are saying, what are we doing even growing food on the Fens? Because they should be a massive carbon sink, but instead, because of the way that we're farming them, is a massive carbon dioxide emitter. And we hold the water table low enough to grow the vegetables that we want to produce in the area. And if we increase the water table, raise the water table, okay, that reduces the emissions from the soil. If you go too far and completely flood it, we're at risk of emitting methane instead, which would defeat the object. But if you even if you have a high water table, there are different crops that can be grown there, and not necessarily the food and horticulture crops that we're growing at the moment. Lots of experimenting to be done, but you're starting to see the challenges in the Fens. Next slide, please. Now, you would think that a well-functioning food system would provide healthy food for everybody. But even in the epicentre of the UK's vegetable production, we have the obesity capital of the UK. Not proud of it. In Boston, which is a town right in the heart of the Fens, in the dark blue area that you see there, actually it's off the graph, but it's 42% of children there, year 6, leave primary school with overweight or obesity. So you can see that there's this really profound disconnect between the food production that's happening in the Fens and the communities that are living and eating there who don't. And there are many complex reasons why people don't have healthy diets. But what we're told by people who are living and working in the area is the main issue is access, getting hold of it, because it's part of a big commodity system. Right. So you're starting to see, and I haven't even touched on the sort of national issues. This is quite specific to Lincolnshire, and Sabina will elaborate on those in a minute. But you're starting to see that the system that we've got at the moment has a lot of pressure on it. And this is in a nation where we're not already eating our 5 a day, and we're not growing enough food for us to eat our 5 a day. And what we've got is a system that's pretty unfair on the farmers because they're shouldering a lot of risk, and the unfairness in the supply chain means that their profits and margins are shrinking and often losses, and farmers are being forced out of this system. We've got ageing farmer population already. The next generation is not stepping up. There's succession plans are not in place, and you can understand why, right, for the next generation. And the trajectory that we've been on for generations and generations, where there's consolidation of land and ownership and farm businesses into fewer and fewer hands, that's now on speed. Savills told us that last year, half of the land that they sold was bought by non-farmer buyers. So we're talking about foreign investors. So given all these pressures on the current food system, of unfairness and increasing fragility, the amount of ecological damage that's taking place there, and that's not even getting into good food produced for everybody. We're starting to think about what would be a vision for a better food system, the sort of food systems that we actually need, that would have fair supply chains, that would contribute to the local economy, have a thriving local good food economy, that would, where farmers' jobs were aspirational, things that are careers that people wanted to have, and where farming was valued and skilled and rewarding, where the work of farmers was partly stewarding the land and protecting the soil and looking after it for future generations, in addition to producing food. And by the way, the soil health, as my colleague Bex is going to elaborate on later, and human health, these are really tightly bound up together. So we're looking to food cultures which have delicious, healthy diets and are really very much rooted in community. And so we're offering Farmstart as a model for how we could perhaps start sowing the seeds of a different food system. You can see that it's really difficult. The farmers in the current system are under a lot of pressure and a lot of constraints, and it's not easy for them to change from where they are. But how can we, starting small, put those seeds in place for how we can increase and diversify our local food economy? And for that, I'm going to hand over to my colleague Sabina, who is going to tell you a bit more about how accessing local food in our areas.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Laura. That was a great overview. Yeah, so before I get started on my actual slides, I just want to sort of give an explanation of this term that you've probably heard once or twice already, which is agroecology. So, you know, a lot of us are in conversations about sustainable food, and indeed that's in the name of my organization, Sustainable Food Norwich. A lot of us are having conversations also about regenerative food systems, where we're really looking at how do we regenerate the land while also farming for food. And agroecology sort of encompasses that aspect of regenerative farming, but it also at the same time as prioritizing the rights and livelihoods of farmers. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone who's here today or listening to the recording understands what we're talking about when we say agroecology. So if we could go on to my next slide, please. Thank you. Oh, and you know what? I just want to add one thing, that agroecology sounds very idealized, and yet it's important to recognize that this is an approach to farming that's now being widely recognized by governments around the world, certainly by international development agencies, and in particular by the United Nations. Anyways, so how can Farmstarts support access to food in our areas? My colleague Beth Ann is going to go in much more detail about what Farmstarts actually are just after me. For now, I'll just give you the very basics, which is that it's about training and mentoring new entrant farmers to become market gardeners. And this training and support includes business support, how to actually run a business that sells fruit and vegetables, and also developing routes to market in the process. So, yes, at the moment, as a nation, the UK relies heavily on imports for food. Roughly 40% of our food overall is imported. And when we look at fruit and veg, those numbers go up. 43% of our vegetables are imported and 85% of our fruit. And a huge amount of this comes from countries around the world that are already struggling with water scarcity, with flooding, with wildfires. And these are all climatic situations related to climate change. And we anticipate that these problems are not going away anytime soon. Certainly not as long as we continue farming in the way that we do. So also in the UK, we've got a situation in which 90% of our food supply is controlled by a mere 9 supermarkets. And because they have such a concentrated amount of power, they get to choose the price that they're willing to pay farmers. And so we've got a situation in which farmers are often getting less than 1% of the profit on the profit that the supermarkets are making. And of course, that money is also, it's important to always remember that that money is then coming out of the communities, whether it's a national or an international supermarket. That money is being siphoned off to shareholders and what have you. So this is resulting in a situation in which many British growers are already reducing how much fruit and veg they grow. And that's also due to labor shortages and to increases in input prices, whether you're talking about diesel fuel or fertilizers, packaging of food, transport. So these are all situations which are putting a lot of stress and pressure on our ability to feed ourselves, particularly these nutrient-dense foods. Laura's also sort of alluded to the fact that we've got a very aging UK farming workforce. A full 1/3 are actually in retirement age, so over the age of 65. If you reduce that age to 55 or older, that's 2/3 of our farmers. So we haven't got a lot of people to do the work that needs to be done at the moment. Meanwhile, new entrant farmers are often blocked by access to and the affordability of suitable land. So could I have the next slide, please? So there's a lovely organization based in Hackney called Growing Communities, and they have a vision for the UK becoming much more able to feed itself, and that's this image on the right hand of the slide. And if you look at this, you see that the innermost four circles, four circles, where you're looking at growing domestic food as households, where you're looking at urbanly grown but traded food, and peri-urban land and the rural hinterland within a 100-mile radius of urban areas. They're looking at that being able to produce some 60% of our food needs, with an additional 20% coming from the rest of the UK, and the remaining 20% coming primarily from Europe, with 5% sort of further afield. This is a pathway to much greater resilience in the face of all the changes and pressures that we're seeing globally, both economically and climatically. So Growing Communities has been operating for some 25 years now, and they have developed a network of market gardeners who all bring their food together and they sell collaboratively to local markets. Their turnover is well over $1 million every year now. And they did some research a couple of years ago, and they determined that for every £1 spent on organic fruit and vegetables through Growing Communities, £3.73 worth of value is generated in health benefits for their customers, in better financial returns and job security for their farmers, as well as environmental benefits. And the woman who runs the organization mentioned a couple of years ago that they were paying farmers 80p for a kilo of potatoes, while the supermarkets were paying them a mere 15p or less per kilo. So you start to see the real potential of developing our local economies, as well as taking care of human health and the environment. So next slide, please. Yeah, so that's all down in London. Up here in Norfolk, as an example of one market garden that's doing a really fantastic job. We've got Eves Hill Veg Co. based in Aylsham, so it's a market town in Norfolk. They recently had to move sites, and on their first year on their new site, which was unimproved farmland, they were able to sell £35,000 worth of vegetables in that first year on that 1 acre. And to put that in context, on average, farmers in this country expect to sell about £500 worth of produce per acre. So you're looking at £500 versus £35,000. I just want to let you take that in for a minute. Then Eves Hill also brought in additional revenues of 70,000 in that same year for the work that they do in training and education, where they're helping householders grow, but primarily they're really focusing on developing new market gardeners. As a business, they sell direct to households in some of the local villages directly around Elsham. They also provide some produce into Norwich, the nearest city, and they also sell direct to a number of local bakeries and restaurants. So as I said, they are growing new growers, but what they're finding is that these growers become skilled and able to take on their own space, but they don't have access to land. And so part of our vision for this discussion and this collaboration across these areas in the Midlands and east of England is to look at how we could get Farmstarts to start to provide this. And so before I hand over to my next colleague, I just want to invite everyone to think about, particularly if you are a farmer yourself, or you're involved in a local authority, but perhaps in other ways have access to land, is there a way that you could come into conversation with us and provide some land? Again, even small pockets of land of an acre or two can make a huge difference. So yeah, I'm going to leave you with that invitation, and then I'd like to hand over now to my colleague Beth Ann McElroy, who is a Farmstart researcher, and you can see she has a number of other roles as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sabina. So I wanted to quickly tell you a brief personal story about how I've ended up being on this journey. So during COVID, I turned my hobby of gardening. I've been involved in community gardening for a number of years, and I wanted to go and work on the land and be a market gardener and grower. I ended up working for a Michelin star restaurant as their head gardener, meanwhile doing some research in Farmstarts with the Urban Agriculture Consortium. And it became really clear and really evident that if I found it really hard to find access to land, access to markets, that I needed to enable other people to do the same. So that's how I ended up on the same sort of Farmstart journey. So what is a Farmstart? It's really a concept, and it can be tailored to suit the local area and demands and needs of the people and the communities surrounding. But it's an umbrella term for different range and types of scales, from both market gardening to agricultural scale. But the key things that are included are, of course, access to land and equipment, routes to market, and business support. It's enabling people to take that chance in their business. Businesses often fail in the first 2 to 3 years. And so it's providing a support network and that structure to enable people to test their ideas and to see if farming and gardening in horticulture is really something that they want to do. Because people often think it's going to be the good life, but it is really hard work. And so providing business support, training and mentoring is really valuable for these either new entrants or career changers. A lot of people that come into this Farmstart incubator concept are often people that want to change their career. They're fed up of staying behind their desk, and they want to either reconnect with nature or live a more sustainable lifestyle. It is beyond allotment growing, and it's beyond community gardening, but they can still be part of these concepts. Some of them could include cooperative vineyards, flowers, lavender for essential oils, agroforestry. It's all essentially things that are growing, not necessarily food crops, but crops on the land. And they're all based on regenerative agroecological principles, respecting the land, respecting each other, improving diversity, and providing a sustainable income stream for those that work in this way. Another important concept is, of course, social support and solidarity. A lot of farmers work individually and by themselves, and suicide rates, unfortunately, among farmers are some of the highest, especially in the UK. By providing this social support and solidarity in networks, you're enabling people to have conversations, have support, and being able to pick up the phone and provide the Farmstart network is really invaluable to some of these models. So these are some of the wider Farmstart models that are available across both the EU and the UK. We have some fantastic networks that historically have provided some of the basis of what we've done in the UK in the EU as part of the Erasmus Plus programme. Renata is some of the oldest established Farmstart networks in France. They now support over 400 farm incubators, the same in Spain, and the list goes on. So we're really lucky that in the UK we have some very well established Farmstarts that have been running for over 10 years, and we're looking to establish more across the country. And I think it's very much an exciting emergent field. It's also worth noting and highlighting that the Landworkers Alliance, among with all of these great organisations, has recently just established something called TALC, the Agroecological Learning Collective, as the acronym. And as you can see from this map, there is a huge hole of practitioners and workers and mentors and advisors in this Nottingham, Lincolnshire, Peterborough and Norwich region. And this is a gap that we've identified 2-3 years ago, but we know that there are trainers and farmers and people that could provide this training, and it's enabling us to come together as a collective to find some money, find some partners and find people to work together to fill this gap. So yes, a brief summary of what Farmstarts are, but also providing you a regional context of what's happened in the UK as well. So I think the tide is turning, and I'm very excited to see where we can go. So in a regional context for Nottinghamshire, we were funded by Nottinghamshire County Council Public Health on a really innovative way of using public health money to discover, is a Farmstart feasible in our region? So we wrote a report last year to scope the market, the demand, what training already exists, who wants to be involved, are there people out there that actually want to start a Farmstart, are there career changers or people who already have the skills who want to level up their growing, and how to secure funding and land. Unfortunately, finding land is one of the most difficult things that you can do as part of a Farmstart. But if you know landowners, or you know universities or people in the church or people who have access to land, that is the first key step. It really does help. So from the map, you can see it wasn't just in Nottinghamshire that people were interested. We had people down in Leicester, we had people across the border in Lincoln, in Derbyshire, who all wanted to be involved in this Farmstart concept. So what comes next is really exciting. But in order to give you a bit more context, I'll hand over to my colleague who will go into more detail about case studies of some of the Farmstart to sort of drill down into the detail of what people provide and how they run. So over to Lauren from Peterborough.
Thank you, Bethan. And I think these feasibility studies are really essential to be able to kind of share what's happening within different areas and the findings. So before we begin, some of the oldest incubator farms were in North America, and they've been operating for over 30 years. There they have over 100 incubator farms currently in operation in the north, and they've been running since 1990. In France, the Renata has their national incubator network, and their incubator farms were first formed in 2007. That was in response to the increasing need for new entrants to enter the field of agriculture and in recognition of multiple barriers facing these new entrants. Renata was also visited by a handful of UK organisations and inspired some of the further development of Farmstarts in the UK. Next slide, please. With the case studies from the UK, we've got the Kindling Trust in Manchester, Tamar Grow Local, and Organically. In May 2019, Lancaster Farmstart launched, and in February of that year, the Farmstart network began with the Landworkers Alliance as their coordinating body. So we're talking reasonably recently. Next slide, please. The Kindling Trust launched their farm incubator initiative in 2013. As part of theirs, they now have 3 levels, a level 1, 2, and 3 Farmstart training programs. Level 1 is ideal for those with very little experience, focusing on scaling up their growing and becoming more efficient. These run between February and October. The Level 2 and Level 3 develop past Year 1 and further embed the commercial growing skills. So in November, for example, they'll look at crop planting, and then January to the end of the season, they'll be working within the land. But these levels also include non-growing elements of commercial horticulture. So from finances to record keeping to site maintenance and infrastructure development. Next slide, please. With the Tamar Grow Local, they launched theirs in 2015 as a starter horticultural units in the Tamar Valley. Theirs is called Mill Lane Acres. The project is aimed at new growers wanting to access parcels of land between 0.5 to 1 acre to kickstart their fruit, vegetable and flower growing business ideas. They provide land, they provide support and advice along the way, as well as routes to market for the fresh fruit and vegetables. In 2023, Mill Lane Acres now has 4 small businesses, 2 community projects, including a vineyard, 3 traditional market gardens, a flats growing project, and a lavender startup. They also have a waiting list for their starter units for the growers and farmers. Next slide, please. The Farmstarts scheme. So in 2018, Les in Lancaster commissioned a feasibility study to explore whether the Farmstart programme would be a good fit for Lancaster. The following year, they actually had 20 potential organic farmers first meet in Claverhill, a community farm on the outskirts of Lancaster. In 2020, they took over a small lease plot of land, and then 6 months later, took over the lease for an indoor growing site on the Lancaster City Council Whiteland Nursery site. Their model aims to ensure that Farmstart training is affordable for all those who want to take part, and covers businesses and horticultural skills, and supports the transition of trainees to new businesses. Their Farmstart Growers Support course is oversubscribed, and 92% of participants say that they are getting what they want from that programme, which is incredible. Next slide, please. So this is a really, really brilliant comparison of UK Farmstart schemes, which is actually taken from the Lancaster feasibility study in 2018. You can see here that with the Kindling Trust, there was 27 people in total that benefited from their programme. This is up to 2018. And they've got examples of jobs include market garden cooperatives, working for Kindling, setting up farm labs and New Junk Food Manchester. Organic Lee have at least 3 successful growing businesses and set up a new 7-acre site. Nourish, which is in Scotland, enhanced business performance for engaged participants, which is fantastic. Next slide, please. The Apricot Centre in 2021 ran an apprentice feasibility study. They now offer different levels of courses, so they've got level 1 to level 4. As a difference, actually, as a CIC, they're able to offer accommodation as part of their courses. And their courses are accredited through the local college in Stroud and funded by Devon County Council and multiple national investors. We are hoping to work closer with the Farmstart network later on this year to look at the climate impact and the health and economic impact of Farmstarts and their impact on the area. My invitation to you is that collectively we could become part of a solution in our country, localising food supply and part of a national movement. How important would it be for the ease of access to information and knowledge where key performance indicators and individuals' experience are championed and highlighted? In a couple of years' time, wouldn't it be fantastic if we were platforming our farm starters, how healthy our people are, and our economies and our land? I'd now like to hand over to Bex, who will look at nutrient security and routes to fair and good food markets.
Thank you, Lauren, for showing us such a wide range of successful Farmstart case studies and their career progression post-training. I think that's really inspiring. I'd like to ask, based on our Farmstart report, could we pull together to create a regional Farmstart training centre with investment from East of England councils to bring the pioneering Apricot Centre course to market gardeners and farmers in the East Midlands and the East of England? I'm going to talk a little bit about what I mean by nutrient security and talk about some of the market routes we have explored as part of the Nottinghamshire Farmstart report. Our Farmstart report, as Bethan has said, was funded by Nottinghamshire County Council's public health team. And that being so, we looked at a lot of different diet-related illnesses and diseases, and it called into question, why do we make do with such poor and potentially harmful standards of food, nutrition in industrially produced food? This sent me down a number of rabbit holes on how to measure nutrient density. And what all of the different measurement methods found that there were links between soil health and plant health, with the Bionutrient Institute research finding producers who identified their practices as regenerative showed increased nutrient density compared to those that did not in their 2020 grain tests. Next slide, please. The correlation between healthy soils and human health is now unavoidable, with the Bionutrient Institute finding the highest levels of polyphenols were in produce grown in soils with higher levels of beneficial organisms. And regularly consuming polyphenols is thought to boost digestion and brain health and protect against heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and even certain cancers. Next slide, please. They also found in their lab tests the huge disparity between food grown in optimal growing conditions. If we consume food grown in rich, healthy soils, we would need to eat less foods to obtain the same nutrition. In fact, one grape would equal the same nutritional density as 15 grown in poor soils. Next slide, please. The University of Nottingham did some incredible research around food insecurity and found alarming differences in the nutrition of groups identified as secure and insecure, with the major factor in food insecurity being poverty. What is clear with the National Food Strategy is we need to break the junk food cycle to protect the NHS and reduce diet-related inequality. One way of doing this could be through the Healthy Start cards, which can be used with any fruit or veg grower who takes MasterCard payments. And by using agroecological farmers, buying less good quality vegetables could be packing a much bigger nutritional punch. Next slide, please. So investment in agroecological farming provides an opportunity for using land more effectively and changing the outdated green revolution narrative from quantity to quality and from food security, having enough food to eat, to nutrient security, having enough food to nourish our bodies. This should be a basic human right for all. Next slide, please. An integral part of all farm starts is providing viable routes to markets for new entrants. Through the Nottinghamshire Farmstart report, we explored public procurement routes as an ambitious dream of creating economic security for new entrants. We took inspiration from Food Sense Wales and Cardiff Food Partnership and their courgette pilot, which was able to sell 1 tonne of courgettes into school holiday clubs via a local wholesaler. This led to the Welsh Government agreeing to fund and expand the scheme in 2023, involving more growers and more diverse kinds of vegetables. With this idea of start small, test and learn, we began building direct relationships with compassionate wholesalers in Nottingham. And inroads were made with the registered council supplier, John Palin, who agreed in principle of buying a tonne of pumpkins. We also explored dynamic procurement, taking learnings from Bath and North East Somerset Council, who provided 35,000 school meals per week to 50 schools in a 3-year pilot. They did this through a logistic provider in the procurement system, with 20 local sustainable producers signing up and vetted through the software. Cross-county and university collaboration is happening in Nottingham to look at procurement, and there is a meeting currently taking place as we speak, which is drawing up a cross-county roadmap to procurement. So we look forward to an update on this. Devon Council has supported the Apricot Centre investing 30,000 in market routes. The Apricot Centre uses the Open Food Network platform. The Open Food Network is a not-for-profit open source software solution and allows producers to set a fair price for their produce, which feeds into centralised food hubs. Market hosts then collate all the producers' orders into boxes and distribute via deliveries or customers collect from the hub. Producers set the sale amount and margins are added on top by the host, which can be altered to reflect the level of support the producer needs. So if they need their orders collecting or they need help managing their online shop. But this is up to a maximum of 20%, a huge amount less than the excessive supermarket margins Sabina was speaking about. Producers receive a weekly purchase order confirming exactly how much of their products have been sold each week. They then harvest just what's been ordered, so there's no waste. Take it to the hub, or the hub collects, and then they receive a bank transfer. These hubs can be networked together to create a shared distribution system, as is being done here on the Good Food Loop in Cornwall and Devon, which connects Tamar Grow Local, the Apricot Centre in my backyard. This creates a greater diversity of products for customers and increases sales for all producers and the individual hubs. The Good Food Loop has 2 delivery routes operating on Thursdays. Both vans collect and deliver produce at multiple steps along the route and meet to exchange produce at Shillingford Organic near Exeter. Distribution costs are capped at 10% of the wholesale value and are charged to customers on a quarterly basis. Once the order cycle closes, the software automatically pulls together into one spreadsheet with a sheet per hub. Some orders are delivered direct to individual customers or businesses, and some of the hubs where the hub go to the hub staff where they pack it into individual customers' orders. And the average return to producers is 75% of the retail value. This van service also connects wholesale produce to restaurants and shops, and discussions are taking place in Nottingham as to how the Open Food Network could be utilised to connect community kitchens with agroecological farm produce to have the triple impact of public health, economic growth, and environmental change. So in conclusion, we have all the tools to measure agroecological farming, with the evidence showing these regenerative practices can provide greater nutrient security. We have the courses, we have mentor farms, and we have trainers such as Hannah Thorogood on this call, and we are building the routes to market with the Nottingham Food Hub, which is launching in September. I'd like to finish by inviting you to think of one thing you could do to support the launch of Farmstarts in the Midlands and the east of England. Next slide, please. Do you have the power in your local community to make this a reality? Can you make an introduction to someone who could? Do you know of some appropriate funding or a person who has set up a training centre who could offer support? Do you know where there is potential land? I feel in this room we may have all the pieces of the puzzle to make this a reality in our area. Can you help share your thoughts to make these invisible networks and connections between us more discernible? How can we walk this journey together into the future we can almost taste? And now I'm going to hand over to Maddie for questions and answers, please. Or Jeremy.
Hi all. Can you hear me okay? Great. Great to see you all. That was amazing. Could you go back to the invitation slide, please? Yeah, just like to leave it on these important questions and invite now. We've got half an hour or so, I think. Are we finishing?
Yes, we've got half an hour.
Yeah, great. Brilliant, that's perfect. So we'd love to just hear from you about anything that's coming up for you, having listened to those amazing presentations, and in particular about how to take this forward to make it a reality. And you really get that sense that with reasonable and targeted investment and policy support and will, these ideas can really hit the ground running, that people have done the work. We have amazing inspiration and models and skills and information out there already to just get going with this vision that that you've just heard everyone talking about so well. And we will be able to share this recording afterwards, so you might want to go back and think about certain elements of it in your own time. So if you have a question you'd like to raise, or even or just a response, it doesn't have to be a question, but maybe in response to these invitations about do you have the power in your local council and community to make this a reality? One thing you could do to support the launch of Farmstarts in the Midlands and East of England, and those other invitations, I'd love to hear your responses to that. So if anyone would like to, and thank you, Food Futures, for your support. That's brilliant.
Maddie, perhaps I could just respond to the one question about the Nottinghamshire Farmstart study, which somebody said, could they see the report? We submitted the report in September 23, and it sort of disappeared into the administrative depths of Nottinghamshire County Council. Because they commissioned the report, although we have got it, obviously, we wrote it between us, we haven't been given permission to release it, which is a bit of a shame. As was mentioned, there is a parallel meeting going on to this one at the same time, which we know Nottinghamshire County Council contact is in. So I think we will legitimately go back to them after this and say, if we can't release the whole report, can we at least produce a summary version? Because it seems a shame that it's sat on a shelf somewhere. So we'll follow that up.
Great. Yes, thank you. Rebecca Lawton from Landworkers Alliance has you just asked a question: how can the LWA horticulture campaign best support you in realising these aspirations? I wonder what your thoughts are about that, about how the horticulture campaign might support this.
Well, I mean, let me just first say how inspiring it is to see all that information pulled together and made into such a coherent set of arguments. And I mean, I think this is being recorded, isn't it? So yeah. I think I'm going to be showing this to people as an example of what could be done. And but yes, I mean, within the horticulture campaign, we've got this aspiration to have the food zones supply system supplying every city in the UK, and Farmstarts are very much part of that. So, I mean, on a national level, we're able to sort of talk to DEFRA, and I'm feeling more optimistic actually at the moment with the new government that some of our messages might get through. So, yes, I mean, I think that the message that you're putting forward here hopefully will be quite appealing to the Labour government with their interest in health and so forth. And so I will try and put this forward and say there's this group of people who are really motivated to get Farmstart working in the East Midlands and East Anglia. But if there are particular things that you'd like help with, then yeah, it would be really good to hear what specific things. I mean, I can't promise that we'll be able to deliver, but it would be really useful to know what in particular you feel we could help with at a national level.
That's fantastic. Do any of you want to respond to that at all? Is there anything?
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
I think certainly from Peterborough's point of view, if you've got any exact data on actually the benefits of these in terms of so the climate and health and the economy.
Yes,
those exact ones, it's the bit that's kind of holding Peterborough back at the moment, is the actual data from the UK.
Yes, okay. Well, I mean, I'm certainly trying to build up a bigger and bigger data bank. I mean, we have similar struggles at Landworkers Alliance, but I will try and pull out some of the more recent ones. I mean, you actually, in the various presentations, used a lot of the studies that I've previously drawn on, but I will I'll think about other ones that could be done. And equally, I mean, there was stuff about the nutrient density and the connection with the soil, which I think I'll be looking up and using. But yes, on the climate side of it in particular, I've got ideas of how to try and get it, but I'm hoping that the farm carbon cutting toolkit and the farm carbon calculator could be a source of data on how market gardens can actually be carbon negative. But I need to have that conversation with Jonathan Smith about how to actually access that data, because obviously there are privacy issues, but I will have a look into that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you. There's a couple of offers already kind of emerging in the chat. I wonder whether Chiara, you wanted to introduce yourself and speak to what you've mentioned about 5 Acres Farm, and then Anne Dean has also mentioned about Farm Eco in Nottinghamshire. I wonder if you'd like to speak to that, Chiara.
Yes. Hello, everyone. I think I know quite a lot of you. Nice to see you, and thanks a lot for the great talks. Very exciting. So I'm Chiara Tornaghi. I work at the Centre for Agroecology, Water and Resilience at Coventry University. And probably we are based on the site. Our department is outside the city, is on the site of where Garden Organic is, and where the organic gardens used to be, which now they are managed by the university. But we still have a 5 acres CSA farm, is an organic farm, and I could have a conversation. I also have colleagues that do research on some of that land, if they were interested or there was capacity to offer some of that space for Farmstart. I moved away from Coventry now. I work here, but I don't live here. But I've been working with the council for a few years, and they always have pieces of land that they are unused. Like there used to be an allotment, a complete allotment site, not far from where we are, completely closed. And yeah, they were willing to give it. But the problem is always like you can have more land than people willing to farm it. So if there was energy to coordinate a farm start, I think we would have some land not far away to be used as a training site, if that is still available, and I could explore this. Obviously, we are in the West Midlands, surrounded by Warwickshire, so maybe not that close to where you are, but maybe something to be repeated, as Jeremy was saying in the chat.
Thank you. Yeah, and just to add to that, I'm not sure if his response went out to everyone. Did it? Maybe it did.
Jeremy's?
Yeah.
I'd say, yeah, I think so.
Okay, yes, brilliant. Yeah, and we are in conversation with, we're part of the Birmingham Food Revolution working group on urban food production, and they're doing amazing work. So our sort of rationale for focusing on the East Midlands and East was that it's a kind of shares a lot of those sort of bioregional features and challenges. And as you saw from some of the maps, it's an area that is sort of underserved collectively. And Birmingham is obviously a kind of entity, a very different entity in its own right, that needs its own kind of focus and resource. But yes, we will come from both sides and working on all the different elements of the Midlands. So are there any other questions that yes, let's hear from Anne.
Hi.
What you said about Nottingham.
Yeah, so Farm Eco is just to the east of Nottingham, and we're set up as a social enterprise. At the moment, we get some grants, but that's more to do with wellness and school trips and things like that. But the farm I think about 10 or 15 years ago, was set up as agroforestry fields. So we've got about 400 apple trees, and we've also got a silver pasture area with lots of different sorts of fruit, like sea buckthorn, medlars, autumn olive, hazelnuts, walnuts, and there's a lot of black currants and red currants and white currants. And we don't really have anybody to manage all of this food that's now being produced. So there's a small group of volunteers, and we meet there once or twice a week and try to look after the trees and the currant bushes. But then there's no particular plan when we harvest food as well. So it's all a bit ad hoc, going on Facebook and seeing who we can try to sell to. So I really feel like we could be a good part of this puzzle. And, you know, if there's somebody who has the training and wants to come and work on the land and turn it into a business, I'm sure we can sort of have a talk about that and see how we can fit together in the scheme of things. As I say, we're producing food, but it's not really going anywhere. And we're almost certified as organic. I think in a few months we'll have that status.
Brilliant. That's great. Thank you, Anne. And maybe Bex, you could, come in. Bex, did you want to follow up?
Yeah, we amazing to sort out a meeting with you, Anne, and I could come over. I've been to Farm Echo a few times, and have you still got Marius doing the bees there?
I'm not sure. I think there's some new bee person, but I haven't met the beekeepers.
Okay, because he's signed up to the new Open Food Network platform, so I didn't know if we could collaborate on getting produce over to Nottingham for the weekly collection, which hopefully will be launching. Well, we'll be launching in September, so we can definitely talk about that. An bigger vision would be to have some kind of van that could collect to minimise the kind of time for farmers and things with kind of connecting to markets. So yes, I'll reach out to you individually and set up a meeting.
Great.
And just to make sure you've seen in the chat, you've also got an offer from Xanthia Haynes from Honeybee Pharmacy. Did you see that, Anne?
No, I'll have a look at that.
Okay.
I wanted to respond to Katie's comment about Farmstart trainees working across different sites, because of course different models work differently. So yes, absolutely, you don't have to just train on one site. You can have Farmstarter trainees going to different farms to learn different parts of the business. So yes, we would love to get in touch and be involved with your community garden for 1 to 2 days a week. But yes, I completely understand that you couldn't necessarily give land over for someone else's business, but you're happy to be a trainer. So thank you very much if Katie's still on the call. And then there was another thing that I wanted to respond to from the Food Futures about making sure that workers are paid equitably and correctly. In Europe, as part of their farm incubator models, they pay their trainers. In Basque Country, for example, they pay them €500 a month before they've produced any produce. So they've gone to the local government and rural development agencies. They've got a big grant fund for 3 years to make sure that their incubators for the first 3 years are being paid a real living wage to enable them to establish their business. And I think that's a really interesting model that we could potentially look into. And then
Could I just put a point to that too, because what Anne's talking about with having access to land is phenomenal, but I also know that the small food bakery is looking at employing a grower to grow specifically for her shop. So that could potentially be another beautiful kind of connection that could be made.
Brilliant, thank you. I'd just like to bring in Daniel. Do you want to speak to your comment yourself? Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, I have 11.5 acres of land just outside of Nottingham near the M1, and in the past I've used it as an alternative provision with learners with different needs. At the minute I'm working abroad but coming back to the UK in a year's time with the intention of trying to set something up on that land. So my background is very much education, but for the past 15 years I've kind of played at farming, but really want to move forward with that. So I joined this call really just to find out if there's any way of getting involved or support that's available. Obviously, from listening to the things that have gone on so far, there's lots of things there that are very interesting that might tie in there. So it's just any advice really, or if it's the sort of thing that might be sort of viable.
Do any of you want to come in response? That sounds like an amazing opportunity, Daniel. Do you know where that is, Bethan?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
But Daniel, that sounds really exciting, and I let's connect after the call, and we can help support and guide you in the local area, and hopefully build those connections and help collaborate on that. That sounds like a brilliant opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask, how did you connect with this webinar, Daniel? How did you find out about it?
I'd done a lot of different Facebook groups for regenerative farming, and I think it came up, so it was advertised on there. So I was like, great, okay, we'll go straight into this.
And are you a grower or a trainer in this sort of work yourself?
No, so I'm a secondary school teacher and a Senko. And the opportunity for the piece of land came up, so I bought it as an investment, and then over the 15 years not really known I wanted to be a farmer, started playing about. So I've produced various different herds. I've had Dexters, we've had sheep, we've obviously produced different meat, so it's been more livestock that we've played out on a very small scale. Obviously the big problem that we have really is being at 11.5 acres, we don't have a lot of buildings there. So we kind of just under the requirement to be able to get easy planning on the land. But sort of moving forward, it's looking at ways that we can try and work with the council and put in for planning permission to get barns and things on there to try and make it a more viable option. And sort of through reading various things, obviously it's a big thing at the moment, the farming and the agroecology and all those sorts of things. From reading that and the movement there, there's an opportunity to set a market garden up down there. So we had a huge commercial polytunnel there. So when we had the alternative provision down there, we had lots of different crops that we'd grow, but we just use them with the children. So I'm looking at setting something up that can sustain me. So moving out of teaching and working full time on the farm really.
That's great. Yeah, exciting.
So great. So jealous.
Yeah. Really, really brilliant that you're seeing all the threads kind of coming together. Land is so precious and so full of potential, and yeah, so it's wonderful that you're bringing that. Thank you. And you feel inspired to bring that into this conversation today as well. I'm wondering whether anyone else on the call that we haven't heard from yet would like to offer a response or a reflection or a question to what you've heard today. Or say something about, yes, Sarah.
Hello,
Welcome. Hi.
I've spoken to a few people on the call before, but me and my colleague Maisie, we're looking to set up a food partnership in Suffolk. So very much early days, just had our first partnership meeting last week. So it's all in the very exciting period. And I think the first thing that came to mind, because personally, I didn't really know what Farmstarts were before this call. I'd heard the term, but I think I'm still starting to understand what they can be. But one thing we can potentially do, and we were just chatting during the webinar, is bring it up with the county farms department and seeing if access to land is one of the issues. That might be an easy way to get at least a few acres and then test something out without really too much risk. And then kind of seeing if we can tap into the partnership and see if there's anyone who has the training bits and people who know the Suffolk New College has a rural department, and they run a horticulture course. So, there might be some interesting ways to tie that in. So this is definitely something that we're going to take back and think more on. So thank you very much for the presentation.
Well, it's great to have you here, Sarah and Maisie. Thank you. B.
Yes, I was just responding to what Sarah said, and I'm a bit out of date with Suffolk, but quite a few years ago we were doing some work with the oak tree low carbon farm near Ipswich. And so first of all, I wanted to make sure you're aware of them. But at the time when I did a farm visit there was someone from Suffolk County Council, and he was the land agent, and they seem to be a lot more forward thinking than most other county councils on making land, well, keeping their county farms estate intact for a start. And then I think you might well find you're pushing it more of an open door than in many other counties. So you're in a really good place to start. So just to give you a bit of encouragement. But I think, I mean, the people I knew at Oak Tree Low Carbon Farm have moved on now, but I'd imagine they'd be a really good ally to connect with. So I'd really encourage you to do that.
Yeah, I'm a member there, and it's fantastic. So, but I didn't know they were linked in, so that would be a really good place to start that conversation. So thanks, V.
Yeah, that's okay.
Fantastic. Ali and Kenny, hello.
Hi there.
There's two Alis on the call. Who'd like to go?
I'm happy to go.
Go for
So
it.
I'm Ali. I work for Green Synergy. We're a garden and social therapeutic horticulture charity based at the top part of the city of Lincoln. So we know Laura well. And I think I came to this call wanting to learn a little bit more about the concepts of Farmstarts. We do produce fruit and vegetables on our garden. We manage 2 community gardens, and actually we're based in quite deprived communities within Lincoln. So we've previously been looking at models of that has been providing food security to our local communities, but with the need to diversify as a charity our income, we have just built a partnership between a community public house restaurant to sell our produce to, and exploring the open food network. We haven't signed up to that yet, but we did actually explore that. So whilst we don't have parcels of land because we lease the land that we operate our gardens on, I think what we can do is possibly think about how we can promote to other communities and other networks within Lincoln and Lincolnshire. We've got a patron that is very well networked in the agricultural communities, and they may have parcels of land. Laura knows that individual as well, Alan. So that's something that we may be able to look at.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ali. And do you have a sense in your networks that they're and maybe this is a question for everybody actually about obviously all of the examples that were given of Farmstarts that already exist up and running, they all have waiting lists for people who are interested in taking part and receiving training. Do you get the sense that there would be people in your networks that you know who would be interested in taking up an opportunity of being part of a Farmstart scheme? So maybe I can just leave that there as a question. Other Ali, I don't know if you'd like to come in and introduce yourself as well.
Well,
Ali and Kenny.
Hello. I've been wrecking the camera at the moment, so I've managed to bodge it up. So yeah, we're just really here to listen because we
we have our own garden here and are very interested in trying to, well, we've been involved with a community garden project in Horncastle in years gone by. And I do have a few links to people with land in the area. So I've learned a lot of very interesting facts. Thank you very much for the presentations. And we'll just do a little bit of networking around. So thank you.
That's great, thank you. What area did you say you were in? Where you live?
I'm actually Lincolnshire, near Horncastle.
And how did you find out about this webinar?
I belong to Laura's thing, the food partnership.
Brilliant.
And I knew Laura when she lived in Horncastle. We were both parts of Transition Horncastle.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. That's great. So I wonder, yeah, there's a question about, are there people in your networks who you think would be interested in doing a Farmstart training program that you know of or have inklings of? And also there's another question that I'd love to explore, which is around policy, and whether any of you have any thoughts about opportunities to influence policies that would support this kind of work going forward. And sometimes that might mean planning policy. Maybe there's a local plan process underway in an area, whether that's a town or a county, parish level, any of those sort of neighbourhood plans, any of those planning type processes can often be interesting inroads into putting a good word in for supporting agricultural land worker dwellings, and moves towards greater access to land for these sorts of Farmstart type projects, or any other policy openings that you might see possible. Be interested to hear that as well. Just going to go to, again, leave that question hanging there, and I'll go to Jess. Welcome, Jess.
Hi, sorry, I've just made it back. I've been visiting the food enterprise zone in Holbeach this morning, so I'm sorry I'm really late. But from what you're saying about policy, I started my new role with the Greater Lincolnshire LEP on Monday, and my title is the UK Food Valley Project Manager. So I'm going to be initially working on skills across the agri-food sector in Greater Lincolnshire, and I will then be project managing a pot of money that's to do with devolution, but because of the general election it's been delayed, so I'll be focusing on skills until the budget is signed off. So I will be a little involved in policy. I know you were just saying about that, but I've missed everything else on the meeting. So I'm sorry, I don't know what you've discussed so far. But yeah, there's 3 of us now in the UK Food Valley team at the Greater Lincolnshire LEP, as there was 1 before. So we are expanding, and we are working with, we've been down to visit the university this morning at Holbeach. So
Amazing.
Hopefully I can be helpful, but
do you want to say any more about your objectives as a team?
Well, the greater, I don't know what you know about the LEP as a whole. So the Greater Lincolnshire LEP, we are attached to the council, but we are a business in our own right. So the council is Lincolnshire County Council is our body that we report into, if you like. But we are, as a whole team, about looking after Lincolnshire's economy. But the UK Food Valley team are specifically going to focus on the food sector, because Lincolnshire is such, I think we produce something like 30% of the UK's food, something like that. So our role is to protect that and support that, both from a skills point of view, yeah, and an economy point of view, you can't really separate the two. So yeah, we're looking at what the industry needs to work as efficiently as possible, but also looking at innovation, so the future of farming, which is why the University of Lincoln are so heavily involved as well. So we learn about different trials that are happening, whether that's in robotics. Greater Lincolnshire is the European Centre for Agri-Robotics. I don't know if everyone knows that. So we are a specialist in that particular field as well. But yeah, I don't know if that's helped or confused everyone more, but we are sort of about looking to the future, really.
That's great, really interesting. I'd really encourage you to watch the presentations, watch the recording, because there's a
I will, yeah.
I think you find that really compelling in terms of what the forward direction is and could be, as sort of seen by the food partnerships that are represented in this sort of collaboration here, and the role that Farmstarts can play, and the centrality of agroecology and sort of local economic resilience to the sort of future vision.
Yeah, definitely. I'll have a look. I just saw Rebecca's comment. I think it's 30% of food rather than just veg that we produce. I don't think we necessarily produce 30% of the UK's veg. I think it's 30% food in general. It's what I've been told. But
I've heard it's 30% of veg. I'd be surprised if it was as much as 30% of food as well, because that's a lot of food, because that includes all arable and livestock.
Yes,
I mean,
yeah.
30% of veg seems much more feasible to me, but even that, I've heard other people question it, and there's a bit of a debate about where that figure comes from.
I think it would not just be from a farming perspective, but from the output from factories as well, if you know what I mean. Like,
oh, you mean processed food as well as?
As well, yeah, that's what I believe.
Oh, I
yeah,
see.
so not just from a
Okay.
not just from an agricultural perspective, but from a food production perspective as well, which is part of my role too.
Okay. I have heard it said, though, that 30% of vegetables come from Lincolnshire. And I think other people in this call have said that.
Possibly,
and
I'm not
really
sure.
Useful to know, because I mean, it's Lincolnshire's got, well, and Cambridgeshire have got some of the best soils.
I can find out the data, because one of my colleagues will definitely have it. I know that we are particularly big in the production of salad.
Laura, do you want to come in?
Yeah, it'd be worth checking. I've got that data from the LEP. So the LEP is quoting 30% for vegetables.
Oh, right.
There we go. 30% on top of fresh food imports, because I know that a lot of imports come through the region for.
Yeah, they do.
But it'd be good to double check where that data comes from. And
yeah, my colleague Effie will have it, I'm sure.
Oh, thank you.
But yeah, I think we produce even more salad. I'm not sure if we're the biggest producer of salad in the UK, but I think we're certainly up there for salad in particular.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
That's fantastic. I think we're in our last 5 minutes, and so I feel like this has been a really amazing start to creating a bigger collaboration, and a collaboration that we've been part of with these guys who are presenting has has really kick-started the next stage of the work, and we've done a lot of thinking and a lot of kind of research and exploration already that has culminated in these presentations, and this shows us that there's a bigger community of people that are definitely they're getting on board, and lots of people who have wanted to be here but couldn't be here today, that we'll be sharing the recording with. So I wonder if any of the people that did the presentations just wanted to say a couple of words of reflection or summing up, and then I think Jeremy will kind of come in right at the end with a closing. Beck, Sabina, Laura, Lauren.
I'll leap in here because what comes to me is that there are lots of people that want the training. There's land available, but our biggest expert in Lincolnshire is doing the training at the Apricot Centre in Devon. And what's going on there? Shall I pass on to Bex? Thanks.
Yes, well, as we were kind of alluding to a bit in this presentation, Hannah Thorogood, who delivers the livestock training at the Apricot Centre, has got a farm in Lincolnshire and is ready to replicate that model up here. And she is qualified to be the trainer. So that is kind of ready to roll out with a bit of investment, so she can get kind of a training room together. So I think from me and the Farmstart report, that seems the obvious next route, because that's just following the energy flow of what's available and the offers that are here and people are passionate about. So I would, for my kind of visioning, we would love to see how we can all kind of just support that to get to the next stage, and then we can kind of learn and move it out from there potentially. Bethan?
I'm just really excited to have everyone on the call, see all your faces and share some stories and all the information that we've been collecting over the years. And I think the tide is turning, and now we've got these connections, we'll keep in touch, and I'll be sending some emails after the call so we can continue our great conversation. So thank you very much for your time, and I will pass over to Sabina.
Thank you. Yeah, just to say that we've got a lot of market gardeners in Norfolk and indeed in Suffolk who are really sort of grappling with this question of how to find routes to market for the existing market gardens that are there. And you know, as I mentioned, we've got new ones coming, getting trained up, new growers. So I'm excited to see some colleagues here from Suffolk and Tierney, former colleague from Norwich. And I just look forward to continuing this conversation to see what we can make happen. Yeah, thank you. And I'll pass it over to Lauren.
Thanks, Sabina. Yeah, it's been really, really great to gather with you all today, and also to hear everyone else's kind of responses and the offerings from that. I feel very hopeful, and I'm very excited to hear and to have the reflection, hopefully next year or in a couple of years' time, of kind of how this has developed, and being able to share that with everyone as well, kind of making this movement happen. Thank you very much.
Okay, yeah, thanks. Feel like a bit of an imposter now, having listened to all that amazing presentation. Well done, very stimulating. People have mentioned the political situation. Of course, you've got Adrian Ramsey as your Green MP in Suffolk, so that's definitely an open door. Rebecca B. Launter has mentioned the Labour Party in DEFRA, but we are also already making contacts with the Green Party agriculture representative, and we'll be inviting them to take part in our future ping, which is in November, on the broader subject of the future of urban agriculture. And B, you will also be included in the consultations as we get that forward. I'm really pleased that Land Workers Alliance and others have taken part today and seem to have taken something positive away from it, because we're all working as part of a collaborative patchwork, if you like. We're all part of a network of people and small organisations trying to do the best to complement each other's work. And I hope you can say that, B, and perhaps take that away, and we can use this conjunction as a sort of way of further amplifying and accelerating stuff, because we'll talk to you off record about other stuff as well. The main thing about, I mean, I know there's not many people left in the call, it doesn't really matter. We can record it and we can disseminate this quite widely. It will help in fostering the discussion. It will help in fostering a spirit of collaboration, which in the new political landscape, we actually have the opportunities to celebrate instead of feeling so miserable with the old guard. Let me be polite about it. And there is there's an opportunity. So let's actually get on our bikes, so to speak, and actually start peddling that message. That's it. That's all I'm going to say. I think we have also got this now, a sort of request to expand into Suffolk, to perhaps expand into the West Midlands. And we've had to go slowly because it's Maddie and me and very little else, and a brilliant team in the Midlands and East, of course. But we don't have a lot of money. And the next phase will be to find some money to do the groundwork in the West Midlands and hopefully get some further funds to do expanding this work in the East and the Midlands. Yeah. And thanks to you all, and Maddie as well. Let me just pass over there.
Yeah, brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant, all of you, for all of your work over these last months and putting into the presentations, and it's all just come together in a really compelling way. And yeah, please get in touch. We'll email out to everyone who registered on Eventbrite with some links and the recording, and follow up with anyone who has reached out a hand and made a connection. So yeah, thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Thank you.
Well done, everyone.
Okay, you want to stop recording?